I had always enjoyed road trips. There was something freeing about driving for hours, watching landscapes blur past my windows, becoming intimate with towns and villages that never made it onto conventional maps. On the drive from Chicago to Seattle, I decided to indulge my habit of exploration, veering off the highway to weave through the labyrinthine paths of rural America. It was on one of these spontaneous detours that I encountered the strangest place I'd ever visited, a town that should have remained unknown, lost to whispers and shadows. I first noticed it through breaks in the dense pine woods lining the old road. Buildings emerged abruptly like structures rising from an abandoned dream. I slowed my car, peering out curiously as the trees thinned further. Ahead, a rusted sign welcomed visitors, "Welcome to Ardenvale." The letters were weathered, flaking paint barely clinging to rotted wood. Still, the quiet charm of the place intrigued me. It seemed untouched by the passage of time, hidden away from the rush and chaos of modern life. As I eased my car into Ardenvale, the streets revealed themselves as quaint and meticulously maintained. Quaint wooden houses, painted in pastels dulled by the sun, lined a single main street. A small general store, a diner, and a post office constituted the business district, their appearances frozen in mid-century Americana. But what caught my attention most were the people. The town seemed surprisingly lively for its apparent isolation. People walked casually along the sidewalks, children played by the street corners, and a couple sat chatting on a porch swing, sipping iced tea. Yet every single one of them wore blindfolds. It was bizarrely consistent. Strips of white and black cloth covered their eyes, neatly tied behind their heads. Yet the townspeople moved confidently and effortlessly, as though the coverings were invisible to them. Children played tag, running blindfolded but never once stumbling. A blindfolded woman even waved in greeting as my car passed, her smile genuine and warm. Perplexed yet intrigued, I parked near the diner and stepped out into the warm afternoon air. Almost immediately, I noticed an older man approaching. He moved with careful, measured steps, his cane tapping lightly on the sidewalk ahead of him. His blindfold was deep blue, contrasting with his neatly groomed silver beard. "Hello there, friend," he called out. Despite the blindfold, his face was turned precisely toward mine. "Welcome to Ardenvale. Passing through, or staying a while?" "Just passing through," I replied, uncertain how to broach the obvious oddity. "It seems like a beautiful place." "Oh, it is indeed," he replied warmly. "Name's Ezra. Ardenvale's finest welcoming committee." We shared a laugh, and his ease temporarily disarmed my discomfort. "Forgive me for asking, Ezra," I ventured carefully, "but everyone here is blindfolded." He nodded sagely, a small smile playing at his lips. "Indeed, friend. It's safer this way." I paused, waiting for elaboration, but none came. His silence was absolute, and though I wanted to pry further, something about the stillness, the pleasant warmth, and Ezra's gentle smile convinced me not to push too far too soon. "Safer from what?" I asked, my voice quieter, almost conspiratorial. He tilted his head, as though deciding carefully how much truth I could bear. "Sometimes, friend, seeing less is living better. You'd be wise to trust us. Enjoy Ardenvale, stay at the inn, have a slice of cherry pie at Amelia's diner, but don't linger with your eyes uncovered. Curiosity has a way of turning dangerous here." Before I could question further, Ezra gave my shoulder a reassuring pat and continued on his way, his cane tapping gently, confidently guiding him through his perpetual darkness. Determined to understand this surreal anomaly, I wandered into the diner Ezra had mentioned. Inside, the rich scent of fresh pie and coffee enveloped me. Blindfolded patrons sat chatting amiably, while a blindfolded waitress glided smoothly between tables, never once fumbling a dish or cup. I took a seat, hoping to collect my thoughts. The waitress, whose name tag read Amelia, soon approached with graceful precision. "Afternoon, dear," she said cheerily. "Pie? Coffee?" "Yes, please," I replied. Cherry pie, like Ezra suggested. She chuckled knowingly. Ezra's never wrong. Good choice. I watched as she returned with the pie, setting it down with unnerving accuracy. Anything else? Amelia. I hesitated, heart racing slightly. Why the blindfolds? Ezra said it was safer this way. Her lips pressed together thoughtfully. Her voice lowered to a whisper. We do it for peace, sweetheart. There are things here you simply shouldn't see. It's not worth it, but what? A sudden tension filled the diner. Voices hushed. Conversations paused. Heads tilted slightly, listening. A cold shiver rippled down my spine. Amelia straightened abruptly, her pleasant smile returning, though it felt strained, practiced. Enjoy your pie, she said warmly, retreating swiftly. I glanced around, unsettled. The other patrons continued eating and chatting as if nothing had happened. But something in their posture, the stiffness of their smiles, revealed a deeper unease. It felt as though they were collectively holding their breath, waiting for something terrible to pass. Then I felt it, an unmistakable oppressive presence. My skin prickled, the hair at the nape of my neck standing on end. Slowly, cautiously, I turned toward the diner's large front windows. What I saw standing openly in the street, illuminated by the golden afternoon sun, drained all warmth from my body. It towered, impossibly tall, limbs grotesquely elongated. Its skin was pale, translucent, glistening with a sheen like fresh oil. Long, twisted fingers dangled almost to the ground, twitching erratically. But worst of all was its face, featureless, save for a jagged black maw that spread inhumanly wide, splitting the head nearly in two. My breath caught painfully in my throat. My heart thrashed violently against my ribs. And yet, despite its grotesque form, not a single resident of Ardenvale acknowledged it. Blindfolded eyes remained blissfully unaware, safely hidden from the impossible horror. The creature moved, a hideous fluidity in its stride. It approached a group of blindfolded children playing hopscotch, its shadow stretching toward them. I wanted to shout a warning, to scream, but my voice was paralyzed, terror lodging firmly in my chest. The children paused, sensing something perhaps, but continued their game, oblivious and unbothered. The monstrosity paused mere inches from one child, leaning forward, its maw gaping wider, hovering just above the child's head. I waited helplessly, my entire being frozen in agonized anticipation. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the creature pulled away, seeming satisfied by something unseen. It drifted off, vanishing behind a nearby building. In that instant, I understood why the people of Ardenvale wore their blindfolds. They chose ignorance, desperate to avoid acknowledging the horror that freely walked among them. My appetite vanished. My hands shook violently, and I rose abruptly, nearly knocking over my chair. Amelia turned toward me, a knowing, sympathetic expression crossing her blindfolded face. "Stay the night," she called softly. "You've seen too much already. We can help you. We'll show you how to keep safe." My mind reeled, caught between a desperate need to flee and a growing fear that escape was no longer possible. Outside, the sun began to set, darkness creeping slowly across the quaint little town of Ardenvale, and with it, a terrible knowledge that once you saw them, the monsters knew you could see. And once they knew, they never let you leave. I stumbled out of the diner, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear over its hammering in my ears. The town felt different now, the warmth and welcome drained from its colors. The pastel houses looked pale, drained, almost sickly. The laughter of the townspeople had gone quiet, and the streets, though still filled with blindfolded bodies, suddenly felt deserted in every way that mattered. Something watched me. I could feel it. I crossed the street, walking faster than I meant to, unsure where I was going. I thought of Ezra, of his cane tapping along the sidewalk, and some part of me believed he might help me understand, might even help me leave. But instead, I found myself in front of the inn. It was a 2-story white building with green shutters and a crooked sign that read, "The Sleepy Vale Inn, hot meals and warm beds." The front door creaked as I stepped inside. The interior smelled faintly of cinnamon and old wood. A woman sat behind the front desk, reading something in Braille. Her blindfold was red, a sharp contrast to her silver blonde hair. She looked up at the sound of my entrance, her smile immediate and practiced. "You must be our new guest," she said kindly. Ezra called ahead. "Room 2B is all ready for you." I opened my mouth to protest. I hadn't decided to stay, but something in her tone brooked no disagreement. "It's safer here," she added gently, "at least for tonight." I nodded, barely aware I was doing it. She handed me a key, worn and old-fashioned, the brass cool and heavy in my palm. Upstairs, second door on the right, the room was simple but clean. Lace curtains, a soft mattress, and a wash basin. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the key in both hands. My eyes kept twitching to the window. I didn't close the blinds. I wanted to see. I wanted to be ready if that thing came back. But night in Ardenvale wasn't like any night I'd known before. It didn't just get dark, it dropped, like a curtain descending. One moment light glowed faintly on the horizon. The next it was gone, total blackness. My stomach twisted. And then I heard the creaking. Footsteps on the porch below, slow, heavy, unhurried. I stood quickly, backing toward the window, unsure if I should hide or face it. There was a long, stretching groan of old wood under weight, then a knock, not at my door, at the door downstairs, the front desk. I crept into the hallway, the boards groaning beneath my bare feet. From the top of the stairs, I could just see the innkeeper standing behind the counter, her hands folded neatly, her blindfold perfectly centered. The door opened, and something entered. She didn't flinch. She didn't speak. She simply stepped aside, bowed her head, and let it pass. My breath caught in my throat as I saw the creature from earlier again. It was even taller in the dim light, almost scraping the ceiling with its hunched form. Its legs moved backward, bent the wrong way. Each step it took made no sound at all. It stopped in front of the front desk. They stood face to face. Her blindfolded and still, it twitching and shifting like smoke and spider legs. Then it raised its hand. I could barely see its fingers, long, jointed at strange angles, and touched the front of her blindfold. She didn't resist. For a single second, I saw its fingers dip under the cloth, and her mouth opened, not in pain, not in a scream, in absolute agonizing terror. Her legs collapsed. Her body hit the floor with a thud, but the creature held her by the blindfold, lifting her up by it like a marionette, and then it turned its head, slowly, deliberately, up the stairs, toward me. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. My mind screamed run, but my legs wouldn't respond. The creature didn't come after me. Not yet. It simply held the innkeeper's body by the blindfold like a puppet, staring through the black sockets where eyes should have been. Watching, then it moved backward, dragging her with it into the night. I stayed frozen on the stairwell until the door clicked shut again. Then I vomited. Morning came too brightly, too fast. I hadn't slept. I hadn't moved from that stairwell until sunlight bled through the lace curtains of my room. I stumbled back down into the lobby. The woman behind the desk was there again. Same blindfold, same red cloth, same kind smile. "Good morning," she said. "Hope you slept well." I stepped back. I saw you were..." Her head tilted slightly. "You must have had a nightmare." "No," I said, my voice dry. "I was awake." She folded her hands neatly again. "It's not uncommon to imagine things your first night here. Your eyes play tricks. Your mind tries to fill in what it doesn't understand. I looked around. There was no blood, no body, no signs of the horror that had unfolded right where I stood. "Why are you all still here?" I demanded. "Why don't you leave?" Her expression didn't change, but her next words chilled me. "Some of us can't, some of us won't, and some of us have seen what lies beyond the tree line." I stared at her. "There's no safe road out once you've seen them," she continued. "Once they know you see, they walk with you, not just here, everywhere." I wanted to argue, scream, run, but instead I whispered, "Then I want to blindfold myself, like you." She smiled again, but there was sadness in it. "It's too late, dear. That's only for the innocent, not for those who have seen." The next few days passed in a blur of dread. I tried to leave. I drove down the same stretch of road I came in on, but it looped back, again and again. The trees blurred into the same shapes. I checked the gas station miles from town. It wasn't there anymore. I tried walking, same result. And worse, I started hearing them. At night, the creatures didn't stay outside anymore. I heard them breathing in the hall, standing outside my door, whispering through the cracks. They never entered, but only because I started blindfolding myself. It didn't help. The moment I removed the cloth to eat or clean myself, I'd find them outside the windows, waiting, motionless, facing me. One morning I looked into the bathroom mirror, and one stood directly behind me. No reflection, but I knew. I could feel its breath. I turned, nothing, but the mirror cracked. I kept a journal. I still do. I've written everything I remember here, because one day someone will come looking for me, and they'll find this. They'll read these pages and wonder if it's real. And they'll see the people of Ardenvale, blindfolded and smiling, offering pie and a warm bed. And if they ask why everyone wears the blindfolds, someone will say it. It's safer this way. I stopped counting the days after my 6th attempt to leave Ardenvale failed. Time blurred. Sleep came in fits, interrupted by creaks, whispers, and sometimes the soft tapping of fingers against the window pane. Always at night, always when I took the blindfold off. The creatures never entered if I wore it, not fully, but they came close, so close I could hear them sniffing the air just beyond the edge of my vision. I learned to recognize the silence before they arrived, an unnatural stillness like even the insects and birds knew to hide. On the 7th day I met Jonah. He was the only other person in town I'd seen without a blindfold. I was sitting on the back porch of the inn, blindfolded, when I heard footsteps on gravel. I yanked the cloth down just in time to see someone in a flannel shirt and work boots, no blindfold, round the corner. He saw me and stopped cold, his face twisted with anger and fear in equal measure. "Are you stupid?" he hissed, rushing toward me. "Put that back on. Now!" He grabbed my wrist and yanked the blindfold back over my eyes, his hand trembling. "They'll smell your sight if you give them time. Idiot!" "Who are you?" I asked, too shocked to be offended. "Jonah," he muttered, glancing around. "Come on, we'll talk inside." He led me to a tool shed behind the inn. Inside were shelves of rusted equipment, empty cans of kerosene, and a tiny cot shoved against one wall. "This is where I sleep," he muttered, bolting the door behind him. "Safer out here. The inn. They come and go too freely in there." He sat across from me on an overturned bucket. In the gray daylight, I could see how sunken his eyes were, how pale his skin looked. "I've been here for 2 months," he said, "maybe longer. I stopped keeping track. I got stuck the same way you did, curiosity. I wanted a story. Thought I could document a weird blindfold cult in the hills. I was wrong." "What are they?" I asked. "The creatures." He ran a hand through greasy hair. "No one knows. Not exactly, but they've always been here. The townspeople made a deal with them. Centuries ago, I think. The blindfolds are part of it. If you don't see them, they won't harm you. But if you do—" He didn't finish the sentence. "They don't kill you right away," he went on. "That'd be too easy. They watch, they wait, they play." He reached under the cot and pulled out a tattered notebook. "I've been writing everything down. Patterns, sightings, things people say when they think I'm not listening." He flipped through pages of crude sketches, each drawing more grotesque than the last. One showed a creature curled on a roof, spindly arms dangling over the eaves. Another showed it crouching by a baby's crib. "But the blindfolds, why do they work?" I asked. "Why can't the creatures just attack anyway?" "They don't just eat flesh," Jonah said grimly. "They feed on awareness, on recognition. If you see them, really see them, it's like lighting a beacon. They know you're vulnerable, that you're aware." "They know I saw one," I said. Jonah nodded slowly. "They've marked you." A horrible thought struck me. "Have they marked you too?" "I see them in my sleep now," he said. "They stand around the bed. I never hear them move, but I wake up and they're closer than before. They know I'm afraid, and that's why I'm still alive." I stared at him. "They like the fear. It's like wine to them. They'd rather sip than devour." The next night I dreamt of the woods. In the dream I stood at the tree line, blindfold on. I could feel them moving just beyond it, not walking, slithering, crawling through branches and underbrush. One whispered my name. I turned toward it, and I woke up to find the blindfold had slipped off. The moonlight poured in through the open window. The open window. I hadn't opened it. On the wall opposite my bed was a message, smeared in something dark and viscous. "We see you now." Jonah disappeared on the 9th day. He went into the woods. No one stopped him. I watched him from the back porch as he walked barefoot into the trees, his blindfold tied tightly, a smile on his face. "They said they'd let me go," he'd told me the night before, "that they were done with me, that I could leave if I just put the blindfold on and walked." He wanted to believe it. I could hear it in his voice. No one ever came back from the woods. That night something sat outside my room. It didn't knock. It breathed. Slow, raspy, almost wet. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't open my eyes. Hours passed. Just before sunrise, I heard a soft scraping against the door. When I finally found the courage to check, I saw long, blackened fingernail marks scored into the wood. 4 gouges, deep, deliberate. On the 10th day, Ezra returned. I found him sitting on the porch swing, cane resting in his lap, his blue blindfold unchanged. He smiled as I approached. "You've lasted longer than most," he said. "Where's Jonah?" I asked. He tilted his head slightly. "The woods are full of those who thought they could bargain." "Why do you stay here?" I demanded. "You all know what's out there. You know what walks with you. Why not burn this place to the ground?" Ezra gave me a sad smile. "Because some truths must be kept. The rest of the world is not ready to see. If Ardenvale falls, so does the veil." "What veil?" "The one that keeps them here," he said. I stared at him. "You think they're trapped in Ardenvale?" He went on. "They're not. We are. The blindfolds, the rules, the rituals, they aren't for our safety. They're for yours." I felt cold all over. If Ardenvale collapses, they will walk freely. No more blindfolds, no more rituals, just awareness, just feeding. He tapped his cane twice. "You've seen too much. Soon you'll stop being a person to them. You'll just be a mouthful." I swallowed hard. "Then what do I do?" Ezra stood slowly. "You write it down. You warn others. And when they come for you, because they will, you leave the blindfold on." The 11th night brought the storm, not of rain but of motion. Something shifted in Ardenvale. I could feel it in the walls and the bones of the town itself. It wasn't just me being hunted anymore. It was everyone. The children stopped playing in the streets. The blindfolded smiled less. Doors creaked open and didn't close. The air changed. Ezra was right. The creatures were growing bold. They knew I was still here, and worse, they knew I was writing. I found the journal torn in half, pages shredded, and the words I'd written rewritten in another hand, long strokes that curved into spirals and loops like ink drawn by a claw instead of a pen. One sentence repeated over and over: to witness is to welcome. I should have left then, burned the place, escaped any way I could, but instead I went looking for answers. I returned to the church. It stood at the end of Main Street, abandoned and sagging under its own weight. A blindfolded man swept its steps every morning, though I'd never seen anyone go inside. But now the doors were open, and something called me. Inside, dust floated like mist. Wooden pews lay crooked and shattered. But what caught my attention was the altar. Not a cross, not a Bible, but a massive stone slab covered in carvings. Hundreds, maybe thousands of eyes, some open, some closed, some gouged out. In the center, a single offering bowl. Inside was a blindfold, freshly soaked in blood. There was writing above the slab, barely visible in the crumbling wood. Let not the watchers be seen, for their gaze consumes, but yours invites. The air in the church thickened. I turned slowly, and Ezra was behind me, not smiling, not speaking, just standing. Behind him, they came, 6 of them, maybe more. They didn't creep or crawl. They drifted. Their limbs hung loose and limp, like dead branches. Their skin peeled and stretched. Their mouths twitched. One had a face with no features, just skin stretched where eyes and a nose should be. Another had eyes all over its arms, blinking randomly, and they stopped at the threshold, watching. Ezra spoke softly. The town was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a gate. I couldn't breathe. He stepped aside, but the gate is weakening. Too many eyes now, too many like you. He gestured to the slab. Offer your sight. Maybe they'll let you leave. I looked down at the bloody blindfold. My voice cracked. They won't. I know they won't. Ezra nodded. No. But it's the only way you'll live. I ran. Through the streets, past the diner, past the children who stood still now, blindfolded and silent like statues, past Amelia, who stood outside the inn with a knife in her hand, cutting a new strip of cloth. I ran until my legs gave out and the town swallowed me. That night, I woke up buried in salt. I don't know how. I don't know why. I clawed my way out of a pit in the ground behind the church, my skin raw and burning. Salt stuck to my wounds like broken glass. My mouth was full of it. They had buried me alive, but I was still blindfolded. That's when I understood. It wasn't just to protect from them. The blindfold was currency. A promise. I will not see. I will not speak. I am yours, but I will not look. A sacred silence. The next day they let me leave. I woke in the front seat of my car. Keys in the ignition, gas tank full, a note on the dashboard written in perfect cursive. We'll be with you, always, but only if you look. I drove for 8 hours without stopping. No music, no radio. I couldn't stand hearing anything. I didn't take off the blindfold until I crossed state lines. The sun was high, the sky was blue, no creatures, no whispers. But even now, when I blink too long, when my room is too quiet, when a window reflects just the wrong angle, I see them, waiting, watching. I wear sunglasses in public, sleep under heavy blankets, keep the lights on at night. I never look into mirrors for long. I don't own a camera, and I don't talk about Ardenvale, except here. because someone will find this. Someone will be tempted to go. So I'm begging you, don't look. Don't look at the house on mile 12 where all the curtains are drawn tight. Don't look at the bus stop bench with the handprints scorched into the wood. Don't look into the fog when it rolls in thicker than it should. And above all else, if you ever find a town where everyone wears blindfolds, don't stay, don't speak, don't look, because they only need one more pair of eyes, and yours might be open just long enough.